All right, cadets, your next installment on uniform pressing is the camouflage utility blouse. After each item pressed, make sure that you go back and you refill the iron with water. Otherwise, you're going to run the risk of burning your uniforms. You need a bit of that steam to make sure that that fabric is loose before you put it on dry. When you're pressing your camouflage utility blouse, always start with your sleeves first, then move to the collar, then move to the back. The sleeves are the most difficult part to press, but they're the easiest to touch up once you get those more seam portions spread out and flattened out and ironed. These blouses are made from about 50 different manufacturers, and they also have elbow pad holders on the inside. So you're going to need to make sure that you flatten out all the material, but even then it's going to be a pain in the keister. So you want to have a towel handy so that you can slide in between your sleeves to press them flat. If you don't, what you're going to run the risk of is having a fold, a crease, or a wrinkle on the bottom side, and then when I go to iron it, it's going to burn a shine through the front, so you'll see where that wrinkle was on the back, because it's going to put a solid line on your camouflage utility uniform on the front side. So I like to use the bottom of the seam, the underarm seam, as my guide. Some of your camis, if you've got a used set, are going to have a crease already built in. If there's a crease already there, use that crease. That way you're not adding two lines and two creases, what we call double creases, running up your sleeves. So I've got all the material flat. I'm going to start from mid-sleeve down because that pocket's there and it gets kind of wrinkly up here on the back side of your sleeve. So I'm going to work on the front side of the sleeve from the mid-sleeve down. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to just smooth this out very quickly and iron it flat, depending on what size blouse. Like my camouflage utility cover, I'm putting it on steam first. It has to be smooth on the back side underneath, otherwise I'm going to burn a crease into the front of my blouse. Now I've got it on steam, I've loosened up that starch, I'm going to switch it, boom, right over to dry. Now I'm drying that starch immediately from where we sprayed it and let it dry. I've got it flat, I've got my crease, I'm going to iron up into my cuff. Be careful when you're working around your buttons. You want to work around your buttons so that you don't burn a buttonhole mark into your blouse. Once that material is dry, I'm going to go ahead and shift to the upper portion of that sleeve. Now, if you can smooth everything out because your blouse allows for it, then go ahead and iron it flat on the ironing board. Mine doesn't. I got a bunch of wrinkles here based on the manufacturer's pattern. So what I'm going to do, so that I don't have all these folds here burning into the front side, I'm going to take my towel, I'm going to tri-fold it, and I'm going to slide it into the sleeve. What that's going to do is put a space between the top and bottom, and it serves kind of like an ironing board on its own. So I'm going to flatten, I know you can't see it, but inside, I'm flattening out that towel, and I'm taking it all the way up to the crease. I'm smoothing it out so that towel comes right up to where my crease is. So now, I've got my little mini ironing board underneath here. My towel comes all the way past the seam so that I can get that weird little awkward area in between my pocket and my shoulder seam. So I've ironed from here down. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm clicking it on steam. I'm going to steam all the wrinkles out. Don't worry about whether your pocket wraps around or not, or whether it pops out. Just go ahead and iron it flat, and then we'll come back and tighten up that crease in your pocket a little bit later. So I'm working around my buttons. I'm working around this. I'm going to do the flap of my pocket later. So now that I got that sleeve all nice and flat, with steam, now I'm going to iron it dry. So it'll stay in that flat, stiff position. Be sure not to actually add more or accidentally add more wrinkles to your blouse. If you get in too big of a hurry, that material will fold over on itself. You'll end up flapping it over and then running that iron on top, and you're going to put an extra wrinkle or crease into your blouse. Now that I've got that done, I'm going to pull that towel out. I'm going to tighten up down here a little bit because my towel didn't come quite down to the seam. Always steam first. Always dry second. You don't need a lot of steam to reinvigorate that starch or magic sizing, whichever you use. Now I'm going to iron all around everything one more time, nice and dry, nice and flat. Everything's good. Boom, boom, boom. I'll get this in a second. Don't worry about it. Now I'm going to flip it over. Now if you'll notice, because I've got all that extra material here, I've got all these wrinkles now. The front side looks great. The back side looks like a hot bag of garbage. So I'm going to take my towel. I'm going to put it back inside again. You can go in from the sleeve or you can go in from the shoulder. It's up to you. I'm flattening out that towel. If you don't flatten out your towel and there's wrinkles in the towel, you're going to accidentally burn a mirror image of those wrinkles from the towel into the fabric of your blouse. Again, I'm not worried about any of this. I'll iron in a second. So now I'm going to work from here up because this I'll be able to lay flat again. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to push that material out of the way. I'm going to make it as flat as I possibly can. And I'm going to iron it. Now, if it's summertime and you got to roll your sleeves, which we'll do a separate video on, then I use a lighter spray of starch. I still put starch in my sleeves, just not as much. A little bit of starch will actually help you keep a tighter roll once you roll it. But I don't see a sense in wasting all that starch if my sleeves are just going to get rolled again. So now I'm ironing up to my elbow pad, and it's all nice and smooth. So this is kind of bubbly because I pushed it all out of the way, but I'm going to iron in sections. Now that this is all flat and I got rid of those wrinkles that were put into it, all I got to do is pull my towel out, pick this material up. It's still nice and flat. It's nice and smooth. Just give it a little quick steam. Click it on dry. Make sure it's dry. If you steam and don't dry, and then you start manipulating this thing around the ironing board, you're going to put more wrinkles in it. All right, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going back to that pocket. And I'm going to iron my creases in those weird little areas. That weird little section right here and that weird little section right here. That if you are a medium blouse wearer or a small blouse wearer, it's going to be difficult. If you are a Sasquatch or the Incredible Hulk and you got an extra, extra long, extra, extra tall, extra, extra large, then you're going to have more of a space to work with. It'll be easier to get that iron in there. But I'm going to take my creases that I had already put in there. I'm not coming past mid-sleeve. I'm going to pull that material out of the way that I had already ironed because I don't want to wrinkle it. Then I'm just using the edge here. Click it on steam, and I'm ironing that crease right up to the sleeve. Click it on dry, dry it. Then I'm going to do the same thing. That crease should run right through your pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and take that little corner that's folded over to the back side, and I'm ironing that crease. Click it on steam just for a second. Click it on dry. Dry that crease in there. And there you go. The very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron that flat. Now, in order to prevent button burns, I'm going to take that same towel, flatten it out, flip up that flat. I'm going to put the towel over the buttons, and then I'm going to iron my pocket. Click a little bit of steam, bing, bang, boom. Click it right on dry. Now it's dry. Now these things are fire retardant, not fireproof. So you can leave it on here for a second. It's not going to burn. But if you set the iron on the Cammies and then you run and try to go do your homework and you set your house on fire, hey, don't blame me. All right, there we go. There's my sleeve, nice and flat. And I've got that crease running right down the middle. You're going to do the same thing for the other side on your own. After I get done with my sleeve, I like to move to my collar. I'll work to the back side of the collar first. Steam, dry. Flip it over, steam and dry. Steam, dry. Make sure it's dry, or else you're going to have wrinkles, because that starch will dry again, wrinkle. From here, I'm going to go to the back side. I'm going to iron the entire back, steam and dry, steam and dry. Be careful not to add wrinkles to your sleeves, but I'm going to take that ironing board and I'm going to tuck it all the way up to the armpit. I'm going to get that seam onto the ironing board. Get it nice and smooth. Steam out all the wrinkles. Stretch that material as you see fit. Always smoothing it out, always stretching it out. That steam will penetrate the blouse. You'll feel the blouse get smoother and a bit more loose, softer to the touch. Click it on dry, and then dry it flat. Now, if you'll notice, this is taking it all the way up to the shoulder. It's only going to go up about this high. You're going to have to do your shoulders and in the middle separately. Make sure this is dry. All I'm going to do is grab the collar, move over to the other side. I'm going to do the back side. The other side of the back the same way. Click it on steam. Steam out all the wrinkles. Stretch that material as much as you need to make it flat. Steam out all the wrinkles. Boom! Click it on dry. Dry the material flat. I can't say it enough. If you only steam it and then you try to yank it off before it completely dries, you're going to add wrinkles. The fabric will stay as flat as it is when it's dry. But if you try to hang it up wet or damp, then it's going to wrinkle. All right, there's the back side. From here, I'm working to my shoulders. I'm going to pull all of the area. I'm going to pull it up to where I've already ironed before. Even though I ironed up to here, I'm pulling it up a little bit more because I want that iron in this area without going to the edge of the ironing board. If I take that iron and I'm coming all the way to the edge, then I'm going to burn this shape of the ironing board into my blouse. So when it was on the back, I ironed up to about right here. But now I've got from here over to kind of play with. Pull that shoulder seam flat. Steam out all the wrinkles. Click it on dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Once I've got the shoulders done, I'm going to put the front of the blouse on my ironing board. Now, I need you to understand that the camouflage utility uniform is the only uniform where you're going to actually press the collar flat. Your service uniforms, you're not going to do that. You're not allowed to do that. So once I've got my blouse, the front of my blouse on my ironing board, same concept, high, steam out the shoulders. Now you got Velcro in the pockets of your blouse on the front side, but I'm still going to lift them up. I'm going to still smooth out all that material. I'm going to iron underneath my pockets. All the while stretching that material out and making it flat. Steaming all the wrinkles. If there's a portion of the blouse that has a requirement for you to pay special attention to, it's the front of the blouse. It's what everybody's going to see right when you walk up. So I've got the collar moved out of the way. I'm going up to my shoulder seams, up to my armpit. I've gotten underneath the pockets. Now that I just lay that pocket flat again, I can iron on top of it because that Velcro is not going to really shine through. Now I click it on dry, and I'm drying that material nice and flat. Pay special attention and give a little bit of extra time to make sure that that blouse is dry. Especially behind your buttonholes. That material sometimes has the ability to shrink and wrinkle underneath there. So you're going to pay special attention to those flaps. Move it around a little bit and get those edges that you might have missed. Steam, dry. Now the last thing I'm going to do on the front of my blouse is I'm going to take that crease. Most of your blouses will already come with at least somewhat of a crease built in. I'm going to pull that collar up just a little bit, and I want to make sure that I take that seam and run along the edge right here, and then I'm going to iron from here down. Click it on steam, click it on dry, bing bang boom, and you are done. You'll do the same thing for the other side of the front. You're just going to have to be a little cautious of the buttons. You'll have to work around all your buttons. Not a big deal. And if you take that iron and run it over the top of the buttons, don't worry about it. They're plastic. They're not gonna get damaged. So there is the front of your camouflage utility blouse, nice and flat. Once you've done the other side, you're going to go back, touch anything up that you might have wrinkled accidentally, and you're going to put it on your hanger and let it up. Or hang it up, I should say. And then when you come back in one of the other installments, I will take the sleeves of this blouse and roll them up nice and tight. Sun's out, guns out. So there's your camouflage utility blouse. In the next installment, we'll go over trousers.